Retcon? What retcon? Hey guys, MasakoX here. We finish off What If Week with a particularly interesting idea. This has been asked many times, not just by followers of this very show, but by the entire community at large. This has been a big conundrum ever since the days of the Buu saga. What if Vegito's Potara-based fusion between Goku and Vegeta was actually permanent? They stayed fused. No time limits, no bad air or anything like that. No retcons, no nothing. They actually are a completely different person. Back when Dragon Ball Z was a brand new thing both in Western Japan, everyone was just completely aghast as to how strong Vegetto was. He was incredibly powerful. He was just playing with the likes of Super Buu, who had once been dominating against Ultimate Gohan. When the character was absorbed by Buu, he was able to keep his body because he formed a protective barrier, so that means his powers couldn't be exploited by the genie-like figure. For years, we thought it had something to do with the bad air inside of Majin Buu, or maybe it had something to do with some kind of magical thing because, you know, Buu's based on a genie, so there must be some magical elements going on at play. Roll on to episode 66 of Dragon Ball Super, and we find out that there was a lot more to Potara fusion than we originally thought. This fusion wasn't permanent. Well, unless you were a Supreme Kai or a Sacred Being, that is. If you were mortal, then the fusion would typically last about 1 hour. If you're actually then transforming when you actually get the form, then it could be significantly less. In the case of Vegeta Blue, the fusion only lasted for about 7 minutes or so. This finally answered the situation back in the days of the Buu saga. Why didn't we know about this before? Well, aside from it being a potential retcon, we might be able to assume that Shin, being a relatively inexperienced Supreme Kai, might not have been aware on the intricacies of Potara, just the fact that, oh, it's a thing. Gowasu, though? He is far more learned in the arts of being a Supreme Kai as well as Potara fusion. He seems quite the expert on it, so therefore it would stand to reason that he'd be perfectly aware of the time limits that are imposed if you choose to use this technique with mortals. To him it was pretty easy, but Shin, oh, it was a whole other thing. That's our Shin! If they stayed whole, might the story have changed? Well, I think so. When Goku and Vegeta fused, their personalities were relatively equal in terms of their strength and actual potency. So therefore, how Potara fusion works, it would then mean we would get an entirely new personality based on the two facets of each person. This is very much unlike the fusions with the Elder Kai and the Witch, and the Supreme Kai with Kibito. In those cases, there was a dominant personality, and therefore, said personality shone through the fusion. So when the Elder Kai and the Witch fused, the Witch went into the background and the Elder Kai's personality remained true. Same for the Supreme Kai and Kibito, Supreme Kai's personality stayed when they became Kibito Kai. Vegito was the perfect amalgamation between Goku and Vegeta, and so therefore, we saw a new personality made up of two Saiyans. How would they react? Well, from what we can gather, rather interestingly. During his fight with Super Buu, he was outclassing the Majin something fierce. And this was all just in his base form, remember? It made it quite clear that the Potara fusion was the much better way in terms of fusion. Metamoran fusion? Pfft, you're nothing. It was made quite clear that Buu wasn't going to last very long. However, Vegito's plan wasn't to kill Buu, at least not yet. He was just messing with the guy, trying to get him to absorb him, so that means he can then try and corrupt his essence and body from within. When it came to that time, Vegito's mind was set. He had to get up to Buu's brain to release Gohan, Goten, Trunks and Piccolo from their gooey, gross prisons. They've actually managed to be able to speed along so fast that Buu doesn't really have the time to get the jump on them, and so that means they can actually act out their plan much more quickly. They cut out their friends and are able to escape Buu's body through steam pockets as the body is completely beginning to warp itself into something completely different. And in fact, it's actually something that we've seen before. You know when evil Buu absorbed good Buu, they made that initial Super Buu? Yeah, that's what we get. Back in the anime, Vegeta threatened to Buu whilst they were still inside that if they were going to be doing something bad, then he would cut out good Buu's prison as well, and that means we would then get Kid Buu. So once again, Vegeta does something completely reckless that was utterly unnecessary. But since we know that Vegito has that element from Goku, so he actually knows the plan at hand, I don't think Vegito would actually end up doing this. And also, they don't need to resort to threats or bargaining or anything like that. Vegito is completely OP, so yeah, he can take care of himself. So we don't get to see the catastrophic emergence of Kid Buu whatsoever. Buu is looking absolutely and utterly terrified. All of his acquired powers have gone, and it's made quite clear that Vegito isn't going to allow Super Buu to get the jump on his friends anytime soon. Buu, out of desperation, launches an attack against Vegito, but Vegito is completely aware of this and then just launches another Spirit Sword into Buu's body and then just flicks him away, many miles away, just to kind of get rid of him for a while. This means that Vegito can actually take everybody down to ground level, remove them from that really gross sack, and then just kind of place them down so they're out of the way. By the time Buu returns, Vegito is ready for him. He continues to play with Buu some more, and then when he gets a little bored, he then goes back to the Super Vegito form, you know, fan service. Eventually, the fusion then gets tired of Buu just bouncing around, not being able to do anything, and chooses to end it in style, with, thanks to Dragon Ball Super finally confirming it from the video games, a final Kamehameha. What does this mean for our heroes? Well, for starters, the Earth isn't blown up. Kid Buu never got the chance to perform the chaotic maneuver that was so infamous in the original series, so yeah, Earth is safe. And since Dende and Mr. Satan are still around, this means the Dragon Balls are still active. So actually, pretty much you can cut out 20 episodes from Dragon Ball Z at this point. The Dragon Balls are used to revive everyone on Earth that was killed by the likes of Buu and Super Buu, and then another wish is used to make sure that everybody forget what just happened over the last couple of days. I mean, Mr. Satan still remembers, and he's still really sad that Good Buu had to be sacrificed in all of this, but then Vegito makes him a promise. Since Mr. Satan was there to kind of try and help Buu become good, he promises that whenever the new set of Dragon Balls comes back, so after another year, they can actually use that to wish upon them and then bring Good Buu back to life. Usually I don't have Majin Buu being revived in similar what-ifs, but I think for the case of this story, I'm going to make an exception. Now this is where things get interesting. We now know in Dragon Ball Super that Potara fusion can be reversed if you use the Dragon Balls. However, neither Shin or Kibito were aware of this back in Dragon Ball Z. You can say retcon all you like, but in terms of the story, yeah, they didn't know. This whole situation is going to take some getting used to, that's for sure. And in terms of time sharing, all that kind of stuff, I mean, what do? I'm pretty sure, this being a Toriyama product, that we're going to see many hilarious situations at play here. Knowing Toriyama, I would have believed that Vegito would have flitted from house to house, so he would have gone from West City to then Goku's place and back again, using instant transmission thanks to Goku. And he'd be trying his best to try and make light of the situation. I mean, they don't have to worry about their kids. Drunks and Goten find it's really awesome and they've actually got someone to share their fusion fanaticism with. Gohan is a little bit weirded out by all of it, but ultimately, he understands why their fathers had to do what they had to do, as well as the Z-Fighters. I mean, they get it, they had to do it for the good of the planet. We then fast forward 4 years to age 778, when the likes of Beerus and Whis emerge. Now, people are actually going to be starting to question, well, Masako, with the Kid Goku thing, you didn't include Super in that, why are you including Super now? Well, don't worry, I feel like we can actually get this all concluded in a way that means we can actually have the limited narrative of Super play a part and not actually run away forward. But this is where we get our first major issue. What happens with the likes of Super Saiyan God? Goku isn't around for the premonition to occur, he's trapped inside the fusion body, and also you need 6 Saiyans in order for the ritual to take place, at least in the original movie and canon. This opens up so many questions. How does blood work with fusions? Are they one person or 2 people inside one body? I mean, you don't know how it really works in terms of the technicalities for the Super Saiyan God ritual. There's nothing, no documents, anything to try and explain it. But you know what? For the sake of the story, I think that our heroes are just going to go balls deep and then just go for broke and just see what happens. When Beerus arrives on Earth after finding about the existence of the Super Saiyan God, we don't get that scene on King Kai's planet by the way, he is greeted by the likes of Vegito with a mixture of curiosity and pure terror. Goku's side has no clue who this guy is, and Vegeta is all too familiar with the likes of Beerus and how much fear he struck into his father and the Saiyan race. Unfortunately, as we know, things go awry when Good Buu's penchant for pudding gets the better of Beerus, and then the kitty cat god just gets really ticked off. He threatens to blow up the planet if nobody can tell him about the existence of Super Saiyan God and how to summon it. Vegito asks for time, and then they come upon the idea to summon Shenron to try and get some kind of idea about what to do. And this is of course once they gather the Dragon Balls. The time comes for the ritual to be performed. Since they're actually down on quite a few number of Saiyans at this point, Videl then steps up and reveals that she is pregnant with her and Gohan's first child, so that means Pan's still a thing, and she would count in terms of the ritual. This makes 5, but does Vegito count as 1 or 2 Saiyans at this point? Well, let's find out. I'm gonna say for the sake of the story, it basically works. If you're questioning my judgment, then I'm just actually pulling a Toriyama in the fact that he would do such a move out of sheer convenience and he can be quite lazy. I am just being authentic to the original source material in a way. Out of the gold and red mist, we then see Vegito in Super Saiyan God form. Now that the combined force is a Super Saiyan God, I believe that this fusion god person can actually end up being quite a bit stronger than we see in the movie and the series, and could give Beerus a true run for his money right now. When the fight begins, Vegito is dominating over Beerus hand over fist. This is when Beerus chooses to use his full power instead of using 70% of it, as he revealed in the movie. However, much like in the movie, Vegito slips out of his Super Saiyan God form and then reverts back to his base form and then later on Super Saiyan, albeit with slightly better muscle memory and just the elements of Super Saiyan God being remembered in Super Saiyan, so yeah, pretty much what we saw with Goku. The fight ends in a similar fashion to the movie, with Beerus calling a halt to proceedings right over Earth and just stating that, you know what? You're actually quite pretty strong. I don't want to destroy the Earth just yet. I want to see more of you. He then recognizes the Potara earrings and states why they actually have stayed fused for all this time, because Vegito's talked about that they fused a long time ago. He asks the Saiyan why they never defuse, and this is something that the Saiyans find really puzzling. They thought it was permanent. Does this mean that it's not? This throws Vegito into a quandary, as it does for the Supreme Kai and Kibito who have been listening in into the entire conversation. Goku and Vegeta had mentally prepared themselves to be fused together forever, and now they have an opportunity to defuse. It's not something they take lightly. This is where I'm going to ask your thoughts in a special poll. What do you think would happen next? Would Vegeta defuse or not? But if it were up to me, I would really like the fusion to actually stay in place at least to the point where we get to the Golden Frieza fight. I think the whole Resurrection F arc with Vegito would be a lot more amusing. Since Goku and Vegeta arrived on Earth together in the Resurrection F movie and arc, it's safe to say that really the initial part of that arc carries on as per normal because, you know, the Z-Warriors still fight Frieza and his goons and stuff like that. Gohan then has his lowest ebb moment. Goku and Vegeta hear the call and they come together. Instead, it's now just Vegito. Vegito appears, and Frieza is curious as to see what this kind of Saiyan hybrid fusion dealie is. Vegito begins the fight, and it's quite clear that he is dominating over Final Form Frieza. Even when Golden Frieza shows up, the fight is still pretty even, with Vegito having the slight advantage. When we get to see Vegito Blue, it's a foregone conclusion. Vegito toys with Golden Frieza as much as he did with Super Buu, and eventually he just gets tired of the tyrant and then decides to finish him off with yet another final Kamehameha. What about Sorbet? He was still down there with his little laser gun that took out Goku. Really, he can't even begin to process what just happened in such a short space of time. Vegito then lands down next to Sorbet and gives him an ultimatum. He can either choose to escape and go away and never return, or he can be destroyed right there and then. I think you know what Sorbet would do. So there we go. This is what I think would happen if Vegito ended up being a permanent fusion instead of a temporary one. I hope you found it entertaining. I certainly found it intriguing at least. It's certainly been one of those enduring thoughts in the community, that's for sure, so thank you for watching and taking your time. So what do you guys think? Did you like this scenario? Are there any parts of it that you'd like to change? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!